The city glittered beneath the floor-to-ceiling glass, a constellation of ambition and money. From the top floor of the Malik Tower, New York looked like it belonged to me. Every light a promise, every shadow a reminder of power. On my left hand were 5 rings. Platinum, diamond, sapphire, emerald, ruby. 5 commitments. 5 futures. 5 women who once swore I was there forever. My name is Ayan Malik, heir to Malik Global Holdings, energy, real estate, defense tech. The press called me America's untouchable prince. Forbes tracked my net worth the way others track the weather. Boardrooms went quiet when I spoke. But none of that mattered tonight. Because by midnight, all 5 rings would become proof that power means nothing when loyalty dies. 1 Sophia Carter, the first ring. Sophia was the first. Old money. East Coast royalty. Her family built empires before mine crossed the Atlantic. She wore her ring like a crown when we first announced our engagement. Cameras loved her, elegant blonde, composed. She loved reminding people she chose me. So when she asked for a private dinner, I expected negotiations, not an execution. Ayan, she said softly, fingers tracing the crystal glass. You deserve honesty. That sentence always comes before betrayal. There's someone else, she continued. Someone who understands me. I already knew the name. Lucas Reed. The MC. The rising star investor with a clean smile and a dangerous hunger. He makes me feel alive, Sophia said, not meeting my eyes. With you, everything feels decided. I removed the ring myself and placed it on the table. Congratulations, I said calmly. You've chosen excitement over empire. She hesitated, just for a second. Then she took the ring and walked away. 2. Elena Vasquez, the second ring. Elena was fire. Latina brilliance. Self-made. A biotech genius whose mind could rewrite DNA. She once told me she loved how safe she felt with me. So when I found out she'd been meeting Lucas behind my back, I confronted her in her lab. You followed him, I said. She didn't deny it. He believes in my work, Elena replied. Not as a merger. As a mission. I laughed quietly. I funded your entire division. Yes, she snapped. But he looks at me like I'm the future, not a contract. There it was again. Lucas Reed. The man who showed up late to the game and still stole the prize. Elena removed her ring and left it on the steel table between us, like evidence. 3. Harper Monroe, the third ring. Harper cried. That almost made it worse. She was media royalty, daughter of a broadcasting giant. The woman who turned scandals into art and headlines into weapons. I never meant for this to happen, she whispered in my penthouse. Lucas had given her an exclusive, his story, his rise, his vision. Somewhere between interviews and champagne, she fell. I love you, she said through tears. But I love him too. I stared at her, expression unreadable. Love doesn't split, I said. It chooses. She chose. 4. Naomi Wright, the fourth ring. Naomi didn't even pretend. She was sharp, calculated, political royalty. Her father was already grooming her for the Senate. Ayan, she said coolly, Lucas is better positioned for the future. Is that so? I asked. He's rising, she continued. You're already at the top. There's no thrill in standing beside a finished story. She slid the ring across the table like a rejected bid. Politics taught her one thing well: how to walk away without guilt. 5. Isla Bennett, the fifth ring. Isla was the one I almost trusted. Quiet, intelligent, strategic, an heiress without arrogance. When she called me to the private garden of the Bennett estate, I still believed there was hope. I tried not to fall for him, she said. I swear. Lucas again. I don't want to hurt you, Isla added. That's exactly what you're doing, I replied. She cried when she removed the ring. But tears don't undo choices. By the end of the week, the headlines exploded. Malik Air dumped 5 times. MC Lucas Reed wins all. The world laughed. Investors whispered. Enemies celebrated. And Lucas Reed stood in the center of it all, smiling like he'd earned it. 5 women. 5 betrayals. All choosing the same man. They thought I was finished. That night, alone in my penthouse, I placed the 5 rings on the marble table. They looked small now. Meaningless. Then my phone buzzed. 1 message. 1 name. Evelyn Blackwood. My frenemy. My rival. The Blackwood Group heiress. Looks like we're both underestimated. I stared at the skyline again, this time with a different emotion burning in my chest. Not heartbreak. Resolve. If Lucas Reed wanted to play king, then I'd become something worse. Because when a man loses everything, he has nothing left to fear. And that's when he becomes unstoppable. Lucas Reed didn't look like a conqueror. That was the first thing people got wrong. He wasn't born into wealth. No famous last name. No legacy towers bearing his surname. When he entered a room, he didn't dominate it. He slid into it, like a well-timed idea. Clean cut, average height, athletic but not intimidating. The kind of man people trusted before they respected. And somehow, that made him dangerous. I watched him from the shadows of my own world as the narrative shifted, quietly, efficiently, away from me and toward him. The media called it the Reed effect. I called it theft dressed as destiny. The rise of Lucas Reed. Lucas came from nothing worth mentioning. Midwest background. Scholarships. Hustle. A story America loved to romanticize. He was the underdog who learned how to speak the language of power without sounding like he belonged to it. Where I was inevitable, Lucas was possible. And people preferred possible. He started with venture capital. Small investments, big returns. He didn't buy companies, he believed in them. Or at least, that's how it looked. Every founder he backed suddenly became a profit. Every risk he took turned into a headline. Lucas Reed, the man who bets on the future. I read that headline 3 times. It wasn't wrong. But it wasn't complete either. Why they fell for him. Sophia once told me something I never forgot. With you, Ion, the future is guaranteed, she said. With Lucas, it's a story. That sentence explained everything. Lucas didn't offer stability. He offered motion. He didn't promise safety. He promised relevance. He looked at my fiancés like they were not accessories to an empire, but co-authors of a legend. Sophia felt seen. Elena felt needed. Harper felt heard. Naomi felt strategic. Isla felt chosen. And me? I was the throne they sat on, not the fire they danced around. The first public comparison. It started subtly. A panel discussion in San Francisco. Tech and capital. The moderator smiled too hard. We're honored to have 2 titans with us tonight, she said. Ion Malik and Lucas Reed, 2 very different visions of success. The audience leaned forward. I spoke first. Calm. Precise. Numbers backed by decades of infrastructure. Lucas followed me, not contradicting, not challenging, but reframing. Success isn't about control, he said. It's about trust. Letting the future surprise you. Applause. Not louder than mine, but warmer. That night, Twitter decided who felt more human. The women drift away. It wasn't sudden. It was gradual. Surgical. Sophia canceled dinners for meetings. Elena stayed late in her lab, Lucas visiting under the excuse of curiosity. Harper interviewed him twice, then 3 times, then off record. Naomi invited him to political fundraisers I used to attend. Isla stopped calling at night. And I noticed the pattern too late. Every time I tightened my grip on control, Lucas loosened his hold on expectation. He let them breathe. I built the world. He made them feel like they were building it with him. The dinner that changed everything. The turning point came at a private charity gala in Manhattan. Invite only, old money, discreet power. Lucas arrived alone. I arrived with 3 of my fiancés. By the end of the night, I was standing alone at the bar. I watched Sophia laugh at something Lucas whispered. I saw Elena explain her research to him with a passion I hadn't seen in months. Harper leaned in, recording nothing, listening to everything. Naomi didn't look at me once. I realized then, this wasn't about love. It was about gravity. And gravity had shifted. The headlines chose him first. The media didn't wait for confirmation. Is Lucas Reed the future of American power? Old empire versus new vision. Reed outshines Malik. 5 power women, 1 rising kingmaker? I shut my laptop. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood. They weren't choosing Lucas over me. They were choosing uncertainty over certainty. Risk over legacy. Fire over foundation. The man in the mirror. That night, I stood in my penthouse bathroom, staring at my reflection. Tailored suit. Perfect posture. Calm eyes. A finished man. Lucas Reed was becoming something. I already was. And in a world addicted to transformation, completion looked like stagnation. But what they didn't understand, what Lucas didn't understand, was that men like me don't disappear when challenged. We adapt. We sharpen. We evolve. As Lucas Reed basked in attention, love, and momentum, he believed he had won. He believed the story ended with him on top. He didn't know yet that every empire needs an enemy. And every legend needs a fall. Because while they chose the man who promised the future, I was preparing to rewrite it. Power never announces itself loudly. It waits. I learned that the night Evelyn Blackwood called me. Not texted. Not emailed. Called. That alone told me this wasn't sympathy. The name I never ignored. The Blackwood name had weight in America long before Malik Global arrived. Old industrial money, rail, steel, private equity, rebuilt and reborn across generations. Where my family expanded, hers endured. Evelyn Blackwood and I had crossed paths since our 20s. Boardrooms, hostile bids, silent auctions where eye contact mattered more than numbers. We were never friends. But we were never enemies either. We were something worse. Equals. Her voice on the line was calm, controlled, almost amused. Rough week, Ayan. I've had worse, I replied. I'm sure, she said. But never this public. I smiled despite myself. What do you want, Evelyn? A pause. Dinner. Dinner without pretenses. The Blackwood townhouse overlooked Central Park. Dark wood, soft lighting, no unnecessary luxury. Everything chosen with intent. She was waiting when I arrived. Evelyn Blackwood was exactly as I remembered. Dark hair pulled back, sharp eyes, tailored black dress. No jewelry. No distractions. You look untouched, she said, studying me. And you look entertained, I replied. She poured wine herself. Sit. No small talk followed. I won't insult you with pity, she said. And I won't pretend your situation doesn't benefit me. I appreciated that. Lucas Reed, she continued, is disrupting your world. And yours, I said. Her lips curved slightly. Exactly. Why she came to me. Evelyn stood and walked toward the window. Lucas is charismatic, she said. But he's reckless. He builds momentum, not infrastructure. He's winning, I replied. For now, she said. But momentum needs direction. And he has none. She turned back to face me. You do. That was the first compliment she'd ever given me. I need stability, she said. You need reach. And trust, I added. Her gaze sharpened. Yes, she said. That too. The offer. She didn't rush it. She let the silence work. Then she spoke the words that changed everything. Marry me. I didn't react. Not because I wasn't surprised. Because I was. I'm not offering romance, Evelyn continued. I'm offering alignment. I leaned back. Explain. Our companies merge influence, she said. Energy, defense, logistics, private equity. We become untouchable. And Lucas? I asked. He becomes irrelevant. Direct. Ruthless. Honest. I liked it more than I should have. Terms of engagement. This wouldn't be love, I said. No, she agreed. It would be leverage. And public perception? She smiled. They'll call it destiny. They always do. I studied her. Really studied her. Evelyn wasn't offering me consolation. She was offering me war. Why I hesitated. Why me? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Because you don't need to be saved, she said finally. You need to be aimed. That landed harder than any insult. She stepped closer. Your ex-fiancés chose a man who made them feel alive, she said. I'm choosing the man who knows how to win. The unspoken truth. There was something else beneath her words. Respect. Not admiration. Not affection. Respect earned through years of watching each other never blink first. You know this will make enemies, I said. I already have them, she replied. I exhaled slowly. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent, relentless. My answer. I won't pretend this won't change me, I said. I'm counting on it, Evelyn replied. I stood, extended my hand. If we do this, I said, we do it clean. She took my hand, firm grip, no hesitation. Then welcome to the next level, Ayan. As I left the townhouse, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was evolution. And somewhere across the city, Lucas Reed was still celebrating victories he didn't understand. He didn't know that the game had just changed. Because when rivals stop fighting and start building together, the world doesn't stand a chance. The wedding was announced 3 days after the rumors peaked. No engagement photos. No romantic interviews. No fairy tale narrative. Just a single surgical press release. Malik Global heir Ayan Malik and Blackwood Group CEO Evelyn Blackwood to wed in strategic union. Strategic. That word alone sent shockwaves through Manhattan. A wedding that broke the script. America loved love stories. Messy beginnings, dramatic confessions, soft-focus redemption arcs. What it didn't know how to process was clarity. This wasn't love. This was alignment. The financial markets reacted first. Malik Global stock rose 6% before noon. Blackwood Group followed with a quiet but aggressive climb. Analysts tried to frame it as romance, then pivoted to panic when they realized it was something colder and far more dangerous. Lucas Reed made no public comment. Neither did my former fiancés. But I knew they were watching. The ceremony. The ceremony was held at the Blackwood private estate in Connecticut. Historic, controlled, impenetrable. No influencers. No live stream. Just power. Evelyn stood across from me in an ivory gown that made no attempt to soften her. Clean lines. No lace. No sentimentality. She looked like a queen signing a treaty. When the officiant asked if we entered the marriage freely and willingly, our answers were perfectly synchronized. I do. No tremor. No pause. Applause followed, polite and restrained. This wasn't a celebration. It was a declaration. Behind closed doors. That night, in the master suite overlooking the estate gardens, silence filled the room. Not awkward, not tense. Just honest. Evelyn removed her heels and placed them precisely by the door. This changes nothing personally, she said, unpinning her hair. And everything professionally. I wouldn't expect anything else, I replied. She met my eyes in the mirror. We don't owe each other affection, she said. Only loyalty. That was the first vow that mattered. Public reaction. The internet didn't know what to do with us. Some called it a power grab. Others called it revenge. A few romantics insisted love would follow. They were all wrong. This marriage wasn't about healing. It was about control. My former fiancés finally broke their silence, subtly, predictably. Sophia posted a photo with a caption about timing. Elena tweeted about choosing passion over comfort. Harper ran a segment questioning emotional authenticity in elite marriages. Naomi avoided commentary altogether. Isla liked nothing, posted nothing, but watched everything. Lucas Reed, however, smiled. At least in public. The first boardroom test. 2 weeks into the marriage, Evelyn and I walked into our first joint board meeting. The room froze. Executives who once saw us as rivals now realized they were sitting across from a single axis of power. Evelyn spoke first. We're not here to merge identities, she said calmly. We're here to remove friction. I followed. Our competitors rely on volatility, I said. We will become inevitability. No applause. Only nods. Fear disguised as respect. Living together, separate. We shared a penthouse overlooking the Hudson. 2 bedrooms, 2 schedules, 1 unspoken understanding. No forced dinners. No late-night confessions. No pretending. And strangely, that honesty created something steadier than passion. Trust. Evelyn never questioned my decisions. I never undermined hers. We moved like synchronized blades. The first crack in the past. It happened at a charity gala. Inevitable, unavoidable. All 5 of my former fiancés were there. So was Lucas. He approached first, confidence intact. Congratulations, he said, extending his hand. Didn't see this coming. That's the difference between vision and foresight, I replied, shaking it once. Evelyn stood beside me, composed, observant. Lucas glanced at her, measuring, recalibrating. For the first time, he looked uncertain. When regret begins quietly. Sophia approached later, smile tight. You look settled, she said. I am, I replied. She looked at Evelyn, then back at me. I didn't think you'd move on so fast. I didn't move on, I said evenly. I moved forward. Her silence said everything. What marriage without love teaches you. There's a clarity that comes when emotion stops blurring decisions. Evelyn and I didn't fight. We didn't negotiate affection. We didn't disappoint each other. And because of that, we never broke alignment. Love can make you reckless. This marriage made us precise. The shift. Within months, Lucas Reed's momentum slowed. Investors hesitated. Alliances wavered. The narrative changed. He was still rising, but now there was a ceiling. And it had our names on it. The night I understood everything. Late one night, I found Evelyn in the study, reviewing projections. You ever regret it? I asked. She didn't look up. No, she said. Regret is for people who choose blindly. I nodded. Neither of us smiled. We didn't need to. Because this wasn't a love story. It was something far more enduring. A partnership forged without illusion. A marriage without love. Built to last. Regret never arrives loudly. It doesn't kick down doors or announce itself with drama. It waits until the world has moved on, until you are no longer needed, Then it knocks, softly, hoping you still care enough to answer. By the time regret came looking for me, I was already unreachable. The shift everyone felt. 6 months after my marriage to Evelyn, the narrative changed. Not abruptly, not publicly, but decisively. Lucas Reed was still everywhere, panels, podcasts, magazine covers, but the tone had shifted. Where once he was called the future, he was now a possibility. Where he had been praised for disruption, he was now questioned for sustainability. Momentum had carried him far. But momentum, without gravity, eventually floats away. Malik Blackwood, on the other hand, became unavoidable. Joint ventures closed quietly. Governments returned our calls faster. Markets stabilized around our movements. We didn't chase headlines. Headlines chased us. The first call. It was late, just past midnight, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I knew who it was before I answered. Ion, Sophia's voice said softly. Too softly. I didn't respond. I shouldn't be calling, she continued. I know that, but I just needed to. To feel heard again, I finished calmly. Silence. I made a mistake, she whispered. There it was. The sentence she once believed I'd wait forever to hear. I hope you're happy, she added quickly, like an afterthought. I am, I said. And meant it. She didn't cry. She just exhaled, long, hollow, and hung up. One by one. Regret doesn't travel alone. It brings company. Elena reached out next, an email, professional on the surface, emotional beneath the syntax. I didn't realize how rare your kind of support was until it was gone. I didn't reply. Harper tried a different tactic. An interview request. Framed as journalism. Loaded with subtext. I declined politely. Naomi never contacted me directly. Instead, she sent signals, mutual acquaintances mentioning my name too casually, invitations extended and quickly retracted. Political regret is never explicit. Isla was the last. She didn't call. She showed up. The one who hurt the most. It was raining when Isla arrived at the Malik Blackwood Charity Foundation opening in Boston. She stood at the edge of the crowd, unchanged, same quiet elegance, same careful eyes. When our gazes met, she didn't look away. That was new. Later, when the event thinned, she approached. You look different, she said. So do you, I replied. She smiled faintly. No, I don't. That's the problem. We stood there, the weight of what wasn't said pressing harder than what was. I thought choosing Lucas meant choosing growth, she said finally. I didn't know it meant choosing instability. I studied her face, not with longing, not with resentment, but with clarity. People confuse movement with progress, I said. They're not the same. Her eyes glistened. I loved you, she said. I know, I replied. And I lost you anyway. Yes. No cruelty. No comfort. Just truth. Lucas begins to fall. It wasn't dramatic. No scandal. No collapse. Just erosion. Deals Lucas once closed effortlessly began stalling. Founders he'd backed sought quieter exits. The women who once orbited him began drifting away. Not toward me, but away from uncertainty. He still smiled. But the smile lingered a second too long. At a closed-door summit in Aspen, we crossed paths again. You built a fortress, he said, nodding toward Evelyn and me. We built a system, I corrected. He studied me then, not as a rival, not as a headline, but as a consequence. They chose me, he said, almost defensively. They chose what you represented, I replied. That phase ends. He didn't argue. Evelyn's silence. Through all of it, Evelyn said nothing. She noticed everything, but commented on nothing. One night, as we reviewed quarterly numbers, she finally spoke. They're circling, she said. Yes, I replied. They want reassurance. They want absolution, I corrected. She closed the folder. And they won't get it. She nodded once. Approval, not sympathy. Why regret hurts them more. Regret is unbearable for people who believe they're always right. My former fiancés didn't just lose me. They lost the story they told themselves, about intuition, about choosing passion, about being brave. They had framed their decisions as evolution. Now, standing outside a future they once dismissed, they saw the truth. They hadn't evolved. They had miscalculated. The letter. Isla sent a letter a week later. Handwritten. Careful. She apologized, not for leaving, but for assuming I'd always be there. That was the real betrayal. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I never opened again. Some apologies arrived too late to matter. The moment I felt nothing. At a private gala in D.C., Sophia, Elena, and Harper stood together across the room. Once that sight would have stirred something: anger, pride, pain. Now, nothing. Evelyn noticed. "You don't feel it anymore," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "I outgrew it." She raised her glass. "To timing," she said. "To consequences," I corrected. "When the door stays closed." Regret knocked. Again and again. But I had already rebuilt my world without doors that led backward. Not because I was bitter, but because I was done. The man they left was defined by patience, loyalty, and expectation. The man they tried to return to no longer existed. The quiet victory. That night, standing beside Evelyn on the terrace overlooking the city, I understood something final. Winning isn't watching others suffer. Winning is when their regret no longer matters. Evelyn slipped her arm through mine, not possessive, not romantic. Aligned. "They'll always wonder," she said. "Yes," I replied. "But wondering isn't power." Below us, the city moved forward, unconcerned, relentless. Just like we did. Because regret doesn't change outcomes. It only reminds people who made the wrong choice. And who didn't. Winning doesn't feel the way people imagine it does. There's no explosion of joy. No triumphant soundtrack. No sudden sense of completion. Winning is quiet. It's waking up one morning and realizing there's nothing left chasing you. No ghosts, no doubts. No unfinished business knocking at the edges of your mind. By the time I understood I had won everything, the world had already accepted it as inevitable. The world reorders itself. Power doesn't announce when it changes hands. It simply reorganizes. Within a year of the Malik-Blackwood union, the map of influence looked different. Not dramatically. Dramatic shifts attract resistance, but subtly, permanently. We didn't acquire companies loudly. We didn't crush competitors publicly. We absorbed, stabilized, redirected. Regulators stopped questioning our moves and started asking our opinions. Governments didn't negotiate, they consulted. Markets adjusted themselves preemptively, anticipating decisions we hadn't even made yet. That's when you know you've crossed the line from participant to architect. Evelyn and I stood at the center of it, not celebrated, not adored. Respected. And feared in the way only certainty inspires. Lucas Reed's last stand. Lucas didn't fall. He faded. That was the cruelest part. At a closed financial forum in Zurich, he spoke after me. Same stage. Same audience. Different gravity. His words were still sharp. His ideas still ambitious. But the room no longer leaned toward him. They listened. Then they waited for my response. Afterward, he found me alone on the terrace overlooking the lake. "You planned this," he said, not accusing, just stating. "No," I replied honestly. "I adapted." He nodded slowly. "They chose me," he said again, like a mantra he needed to believe. "They chose momentum," I said. "Momentum always expires." He exhaled. For the first time since I'd known him, Lucas Reed looked human. Not defeated. Just finished. We shook hands, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as men who understood the outcome. That was the last time we spoke. The women who watched from afar. They were still there. At events. In headlines. On the periphery of my life. But no longer in it. Sophia married into European aristocracy, beautiful photos, empty eyes. Elena sold her company early, the kind of exit people justify loudly. Harper reinvented herself as a cultural critic, always analyzing love, never trusting it. Naomi climbed politically, powerful but perpetually alone. Isla disappeared from public view entirely. They had what they chose, and they lived with it. None of them tried to come back again. Some doors, once closed firmly enough, don't invite second knocks. What Evelyn and I became. We never became lovers. And yet, we became something rarer. Partners without illusion. We learned each other's rhythms. Her precision. My patience. Her decisiveness. My foresight. There was no jealousy. No insecurity. No performance. Only trust. The kind forged not by emotion, but by repeated proof. One night, years later, we sat overlooking the city we now shaped more than inhabited. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "what people think we are?" "No," I said. "Because it doesn't matter." She smiled, not warmly but genuinely. "That's when you know," she said. "You're free." The final audit. Every victory deserves accounting. I reviewed my life the way I reviewed my companies. Without sentiment, without nostalgia. What had I lost? 5 relationships built on expectation. A version of myself that believed loyalty would always be enough. The illusion that stability inspires devotion. What had I gained? Clarity. Autonomy. A partner who never needed me to be smaller, so she could feel larger. A world that responded to my presence, not my promise. I didn't just recover from betrayal. I outgrew it. The man I became. I was no longer the man who waited to be chosen. I was the man people aligned with or moved around. There's a difference between being loved and being valued. Love can be withdrawn. Value reshapes behavior. I became valuable in ways emotion could never threaten. The quiet moment of victory. The moment it truly settled wasn't at a gala or a boardroom. It was alone. Early morning. City asleep. No messages waiting. I stood by the window and realized something simple, devastating, and complete. There was nothing left I wanted from anyone who had walked away. No validation. No apology. No acknowledgement. That's when you know you've won everything. Legacy is chosen, not given. People will tell stories about me. They'll say I was ruthless. That I married for power. That betrayal hardened me. They'll miss the truth. Betrayal clarified me. It stripped away the need to be understood, loved, or approved of, and left behind something far more durable. Direction. Evelyn's last words on the matter. At a private dinner celebrating the final integration of our global operations, Evelyn raised her glass. To outcomes, she said. I met her gaze. To choices, I replied. She nodded once. That was enough. I won everything. Not because they lost, but because I stopped needing them to see my worth. I won my time. I won my focus. I won a future built on alignment instead of hope. And in a world where most people chase love, attention, and approval, I chose something stronger. Control. And control, when earned honestly, feels like freedom. That's how I won everything. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But completely.